My name is Inbal and I live in Modi'in city. When I was 25 years old with a 1.5 years old baby, my husband was murdered by terrorists. It happened in East Jerusalem. I was home, not far from here, when I got the call that something happened and that I should try to reach him and see if I can speak to him. Maybe it's not him. So I started calling him, and sadly he didn't pick up the phone. I didn't know at the time exactly what happened, so I started calling different people to find out what happened. And at some point I was able to reach his manager, and at first he told me that he was hurt and that he's on his way to the hospital. I didn't know what to do at the moment. I was crying and screaming at the house. My baby didn't really understand what happened. She was panicking. She wasn't used to see me this way. I called my father-in-law and I said that we have to go to the hospital in Jerusalem to find out what happened, and that's what we did. We got into the car and we drove to Jerusalem. The head of the ER told us that my husband was shot and he died from his wounds a few minutes before they got to the hospital, and that they did everything they could to save him. So there I was, 25 years old, thinking about what I'm going to tell my daughter. And I had like an hour that they kept us in the hospital to make sure that we're okay. And at that time I asked to see him. At first they tried to convince me not to. They said that I shouldn't, that you don't need this. The nurse was really trying to persuade me not to see him, and I really insisted. Not because I didn't believe. The minute he didn't answer the phone, I realized that something bad had happened, but I wanted to say goodbye. It was very, very important for me to say goodbye. So finally they allowed me to see him, and I went to see him, and I gave him a kiss, and I said goodbye. And I promised him that I'm going to be okay. And from that moment, my journey, my very long journey started. I had to make difficult decisions and choices. And at first, the only thing I was thinking about is what would make him happy, what would be good for him if I did, and that was my guidance at the beginning. And because I knew that he would want me to choose life, I chose life. And in order to choose life, I had to choose not to hate. and not to bring hate into my life, even though it was a very, very big challenge. And just to keep his family close, make sure everybody's okay, and raise my daughter in a normal way, not with hate surrounding her. When Talia was very, very little, I told her that the person who killed her father was a person who chose to do bad. He didn't choose life, he chose death. That's what I told her. That way, I was preventing her from hating a group of people that she doesn't even know. So it was easier to teach her that when she was little, and then when she was older, after she found out that it was an Arab, she was able to remember what I taught her about the freedom of choice, that you can choose life and not death. And she didn't think of all the Arabs as bad people, and she wasn't afraid of them. She wasn't afraid of that language. And she's a lovely teenager, and she studies Arabic. She's actually very good at it. And she's very proud of where she comes from, and she's very proud to be Jewish and to be connected to this land. I hope other women in my condition will have the strength and the support from their families and from their friends to choose the same, to choose life, not to choose hate, because it's not going to lead us anywhere. You don't have to forget where you come from or what happened to you or who did it, but once you're choosing not to hear and to hate the other side, you're losing your ability to choose.